All right, welcome. Thank you for joining us. We're excited to welcome Brett Lang. He's co-founder of Aikiono to a super webinar today. Communication is at the core of everything we do, and with the retail world continuing to evolve at rapid paces, the seamless communication methods that you use are at the core. So we wanted to welcome Brett in to walk us through Aikiono, how it connects with your point of sale and helps you with automated communication, text, real-time notifications, automated customer feedback. It's just streamlining all those interactions. I had the opportunity to sit with Brett as a guest on Bicycle Retail Radio, our podcast, just a month back. It was well received. He was a tremendous guest. So if you listen to our podcast, but you haven't heard that episode, please head over to the MBDA website online, Bicycle Retail Radio, and look for that episode. I guess I'm going to turn it over to Brett. Enough from me. Brett, take us through. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Just to kind of introduce myself, my name is Brett Lang. I am co-founder of Aikiono. We started while managing a bike shop, and so much of what we've kind of built initially was based off of my frustrations around communicating with customers, especially in relation to service. And we like to joke that what we've evolved into now is based off of the feedback of about 1,200 bike shops around the world. We really dedicate a lot of our time and energy to understanding the processes that bike shops have to kind of work their way through, especially over the past couple of years. You know, COVID changed the way the world interacts. And we've really kind of set ourselves to, streamline that as much as possible. So I'm going to share my screen and we'll kind of get started. And if anybody has questions, definitely keep them queued up. At the end, we'll open it up and can answer anything that anybody has. So, all right. At its very core, Aikiono is text messaging. It's the thing that we've all done for so many years. It's become such a part of our lives. And, our little shtick is that somewhere along the line, we started texting friends and family and calling businesses. Aikiono is here to kind of swap those two. Text communication is just such a more efficient way of communicating in today's world. There's so many people on Zoom calls nowadays. We're all busy. We're all, running to catch that next meeting. And so by communicating via text, it's being very appreciative of not only your customers' times, but your time as a retailer. And so I'm going to focus specifically on our Lightspeed integration because it's kind of the biggest thing that we do. And we'll talk a little bit about our standalone product as well. So where this all started was the ability to text and doing it based off of your Lightspeed customer contacts. When I was at the shop, we used Google Voice initially. And the big issue that came from that was the phone number would come over from Lightspeed, but especially during the busy season, the customer's name won it. So when that customer texts back in a few hours later, you're spending 20 minutes trying to remember who that conversation was. And so with Aikiono, it's all connected to your Lightspeed ecosystem. The contacts are your Lightspeed customer profiles. So it's effectively turning them into your contacts within the Aikiono ecosystem. This is full feature texting. So it's sending and receiving SMS, it's sending and receiving MMS. And the beauty of it is it's coming from your store's phone number. We use a process called hosting to text enable business landline and VoIP phone numbers. This is a phone number that you have spent years building a presence around. It's all over the internet. It's all over the website. Phones are getting a lot smarter. And as such, by texting from your store's phone number, chances are it's going to show the business name instead of just a random phone number. And it's also fabulous from the perspective of, say you find a crack in a bike. That's probably not a, hey, your bike's roached text message. That's, more of a call kind of situation. But still being appreciative of everyone's time, you can send a text saying like, hey, we need to talk to you about your bike. Give us a call when you have a moment. And it's coming from your store's phone number, the phone number you want that customer to call you at. And so this is where we started. We brought texting into Lightspeed based off of the customer profiles and from the store's phone number. But we didn't want to just open up a new channel of communication and say, figure it out. We really wanted to focus on the different workflows that retailers had to streamline those as much as possible. So what we're looking at here is the main IKEONO portal. This acts as kind of a hub for all of your conversations. As you get new text messages, they will come into this ecosystem. We offer real-time updates, push notifications, audible right here on the side rail indicating there's new messages. But conversations are typically happening so quickly that they are happening throughout Lightspeed. The number one place is our service module. You know, the service department is such a communication heavy part of the business, whether it's getting consent for work, keeping customers updated throughout a process, especially nowadays, right? Like parts are taking longer and longer to order. And so we brought full feature texting into this ecosystem. You need a chain. I replaced that 7 years ago. What are you talking about? And so this was it. It was really quick back and forth communication. And when we started rolling this out to retailers and seeing how they were using, what we noticed first and foremost, that they were typing really long messages. They were building out their work order quotes and then typing all of this to the customer. We've all done it. You know, you call, you leave that 3-minute voicemail explaining everything. They call back 2 hours later and say, I didn't listen to it. So they were texting it because it gave the customer time to absorb the information, reply with any questions, and created a record of that. So we didn't want this to be a situation where we're taking time from one modal and moving it to another. So what we came up with is the ability to text work order quotes. This takes the PDF that Lightspeed generates, converts it to a high resolution image, and makes it textable. And this does a couple of things for the retailer. First and foremost, it provides a clear, concise breakdown of what's being recommended. It gives the customer all of the information so they can ask any questions. And then most importantly, it creates a record. And so no more of those situations where the customer comes in after having agreed to something that was explained on the phone and be like, hey, I didn't agree to this, you know, this charge. You have a record of having provided it, gaining their consent before going through with the process. And because of this and how important it is to the retailer, we made the conversations where they are not deletable. So you can archive them out of your inbox, and this keeps everything nice and clean. But if that customer texts in 6 months later, a year later, or you start a conversation, you're going to have the historical record with that customer. So you'll always have this as proof if there's any question going forward. The next part of it is looking at how retailers were communicating, right? This was pre-COVID where things were happening a lot faster. You were able to, you know, get same day, next day delivery from QBP. And as such, our retailers were creating message templates. So these are things that you might send the most often. The number one use case for this was, hey, your service is done, please come pick up your bike. You know, one of the shops I managed was in New York City. It was a very, you know, real estate's really expensive there. The longer that bike's in your shop, the longer another bike isn't. So getting it out and getting it out quickly was really important. And you know, it's 4 button clicks to send that message. Show chat. Oops. Show chat, templates, repair ready, and send. But where that was breaking down was the human element. You know, it's a busy Thursday. There's 3 customers in front of you. You're going to message, and next thing you know, you forget, and it's Tuesday, and somebody's calling to yell at you. So what we came up with was fully automated text messages based off of Lightspeed work order statuses. You know, this is a workflow that so many retailers have already implemented. So we didn't want to have it where it's a whole other step. And we wanted it customizable so that you can say whatever you're wanting to say as a retailer. So if you have a million different work order statuses, you could set up a million different automated messages. One of our favorite examples of this was the Domino's Pizza Tracker that came out roughly 9 years ago at this point. And it was seen as mostly a marketing gimmick at the time. But what they saw afterwards was a 30% increase in repeat pizza sales. So what we can appreciate is that Domino's has been communicating more efficiently and more effectively about, a $5 pizza than we do a lot of times about bikes. And bikes are getting more important in many different ways. They're getting more expensive. It's not that uncommon to see $10,000, $15,000 bikes. So that's part of the equation. And then the other part of the equation is that bikes are becoming a mode of transportation. It's what connects people to work, to family, to loved ones, to appointments. And when you have something of that importance, we need to be able to communicate about it and do it efficiently. So popular things we see now are on the open status, texting a customer saying like, thank you for dropping your bike off with us. We'll follow up shortly with a quote. Let us know if you have any questions in the meantime. That way, you're getting your phone number in their phone, setting an expectation of communication via text, opening a channel of communication that isn't as time consuming as phone calls or emails. And it's just that lovely touch point. We're in an all-knowing world at this point. Amazon tells you when your order is 2, 3, 4 stops away. So the other things we're seeing are, hey, we've sent you an estimate. Let us know if you approve and we will get started. With everything going on in the industry, hey, we've ordered your parts. We'll let you know when they actually show up and we'll get started. Hey, your bike is done. Please come get it. And then finally, hey, it's been 3 days since we notified you. We really need you to pick up your bike. All of this is coming from your store's phone number. It's all predicated on adding functionality in a way that is complementary to a workflow you already have. And then finally, the ability to capture a deposit. This was something that we started hearing a lot at the beginning of COVID, was the ability to offer a contactless payment solution. And we reacted, we built this in a way that was complementary to Lightspeed. So these are Stripe secured checkouts. They are eligible for chargeback protection. They have a litany of fraud protection kind of tools that you can implement. They support all major credit cards, Apple Pay, Android Pay. There's buy now, pay later available through things like Klarna and Afterpay. But we also did it in a way where it makes it easier to capture deposits for service. As we've moved beyond this notion of contactless payments, what it's becoming more and more is capturing deposits. A lot of times retailers are having to order parts that aren't going to deliver for 6 months to a year, or it's a situation where you're ordering a very specific part that you might not typically stock. So this gives you the ability to capture a deposit in a way that's PCI compliant and does not add a lot of time and energy to your workflows. So even if a customer has multiple projects going in your business, you will see the invoices sent from that specific work order, making it easier to capture those deposits in relation to specific projects. You'll be notified in real time once the customer actually pays the invoice, and it automatically adds as a deposit into Lightspeed so that when you go to cash out that customer, Lightspeed's your source of truth as to if you've been paid or not. So we will go ahead and cash out. Now we'll use our account balance. Finish sale. And then with Ikiono, we've made it easier to go paperless with the ability to text sales receipts. We went paperless at the shop in New York. We did it via email initially. My big frustration with email was that it's so susceptible to misspellings, special characters, all of that good stuff. Phone numbers are standardized. It's 10 digits, easy to get right. This is editable, so it'll automatically pull a phone number from the customer profile on the sale. But if you need to send it to somebody else, you can do a one-off text message. And same for those customers who might come in, they're buying a goo, you don't want to add them to your customer profiles. You can also send these on sales that don't have customers associated. So that's a really big flow that we see in relation to the service department. And as everything in the world that's been going on has kind of made us have to interact with businesses different, we're seeing more and more sales happening via text message. And again, we've looked to kind of streamline that process. So the way we have done this typically is via our easy to install web chat widget. So this is able to be put on any website. It's optimized for certain websites, specifically Smart Etailing and Lightspeed Ecom. Those are two of the big ones in our industry. So this allows customers to send messages directly into your Aikiono ecosystem. Do you have a bike? We brought this out in relation to COVID, expecting there to be a lot of communication around changing business practices, changing business hours, things like that. What we are seeing more and more often, though, is this is being used as a shopping tool. The distribution cycle is so skewed right now that consumers are having to touch multiple retailers to try and find the really specific things they are looking for. And as such, they are needing to be more and more efficient about it. It's not a situation where they can go hit 5 shops in person anymore. They're doing it online and they're wanting to do it really quickly. So we did this via text messaging on purpose. My issue with live chat is that it sets an expectation of an immediate response. That's not always possible for a really busy retailer, especially as we get into peak season. So by doing it via text, the customer can send you a message, comes directly into your Aikiono ecosystem within Lightspeed. It'll have a custom tag associated with it. And when you click on it, you can show more information to get context. There's so many variables in our industry. Like, don't get me started on bottom brackets. So with that appreciation, we wanted to give retailers as much context as possible going into the conversation. That way, if you know you can't get that bike, or if you know it's going to be a 6-month wait, you can either pivot that customer to something else or manage that expectation right off the bat. And this leads us into the next flow of customer reaches out via your website. They're hot to trot. They want to get it on order. Let's do it in a way that is easier for the retailer to manage. So with Aikiono, you can go add your customer, add your item. We're going to do an awesome helmet. Again, you can text these invoice links. This will automatically pull in a sales total, but if you're only wanting to take a partial deposit, then by all means. We can special order our item. We do not have to manually add the deposit. Aikiono takes care of it once the customer actually pays it, and you get notified directly within your Aikiono portal when these invoices get paid. So it'll have a custom tag associated indicating that it's been paid. It also will showcase directly in your Aikiono payments dashboard. I'm not going to pay this. This is attached to my brother's Stripe account. He tells me that that is not able to be changed. I think he's just trying to get a little extra money. So takes us into our special orders. So doing inventory in Lightspeed is frustrating. This is the first thing I learned on day one of my time in the industry was doing a purchase order, because at its basis, it affects everything, right? Having accurate inventory, having accurate cost, and having a flow that makes it easy to manage all of these special orders, especially nowadays, is really important. So we've ordered our item, we check it in, receive, and add to inventory. And so my big frustration when learning this was there was no way to communicate with customers. Your option was to leave Lightspeed and go into either email or some other system to notify customers and run the risk of not completing your purchase order, or waiting till the end of the purchase order and running the risk of forgetting to actually notify the customer that their special order is ready for pickup. So what we've done is we've brought texting here as well. There's a text modal on all of your special orders. This is a field that you can define and includes smart merge fields for the customer's first and last name and the item description. So if the customer has multiple items, they know exactly what's ready for pickup. And it's not fully automated for those use cases of you special order a bike, that bike still needs to get built. We didn't want customers showing up before the bike was built and being disappointed. You special order a headset still needs to be set in the bike. That can take time depending on how busy your service department is. So you do have to click the button, but it's going to be everywhere you need it to be. It's coming from your store's phone number. And again, you will have that record of having sent that message to the customer. So if there's any indication that, like, if there's any question on whether that customer has been notified, you'll be able to see exactly when it was sent. And say you text a landline, it seems kind of crazy that landlines are really even a thing anymore, but you will be notified directly in Ikiono that those messages failed. And that way, to reach out via different means if it is a landline that you have on file for the customer. All righty. So we've talked about service, we've talked about sales. The next big part of Ikiono is following up with customers. The bike industry specifically is very susceptible to perception issues. Customer brings in, especially nowadays, right? Like we've had this huge surgence of people who have either not interacted with the industry in many years or are new to the industry specifically. And as such, their expectations are, they're not what a lot of times that we would kind of expect. A really popular thing, or not popular, but a reoccurring thing we see is a customer will bring in a bike for a tune-up. They leave, go on their first ride afterwards, and they drop the chain. We as retailers, we're doing the best that we can, especially if it's older product with limited options as far as replacements go. So we all know it's a finicky limit on a front derailleur limit, and we've solved the problem. But customers just perceive that as we did a poor job on the tune-up. Whether right or wrong, it's still a perception. So with Ikiono, you can build in automation to follow up with customers after their experience with your business. And we have a couple of different options, but the most popular of which is our Net Promoter Score. So this is designed to not only give you a nice metric that ebbs and flows based off of customers' input, but also is designed to act as a buffer for your business. So the first message can say something, like, thank you for working with us. We're happy to have been of service. How was your experience? Would you rate us on a scale of 1 to 10 on how likely you are to recommend us to a friend or colleague? 9 and 10 are considered promoters. So they are people likely to promote your business. These customers can have an automated follow-up that says something like, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. It would really help us out if you could leave us a review online. Funneling those positive customers online. The 7 and 8s can get a different message. If there was anything we ever could do to be better, please let us know, but we really appreciate your business. And then the negative customers, and in many ways, this is the more important customer, right? Everybody's asking for feedback right now. You go to 7-Eleven and buy juicy fruit. 10 minutes later, somebody's asking you how it tastes, which is great. It's kind of a numbers game. But in many ways, those negative customers are the ones we really want to interact with, because that chain dropping issue, that might not have risen to the level of going online and leaving a bad review. But the next time that customer needs a tune-up, they might look to go somewhere else because of that experience. So this is a nice organic way to interact with these customers, doing it outside of the public eye and doing it in a way where it's not very intensive for the business. So you can set up an automated reply to 1 through 6, which are considered negators. You can say something like, we're sorry to hear your experience wasn't great. Let us know what happened so we can take care of it. And these come directly back into Lightspeed so that you can see context. You can see what the interaction with that customer was and follow up accordingly. If it's something as simple as a drop chain, it can be bring it on in, we'll fix it on the spot. It's a really quick adjustment. If it's something more serious, it's probably not a my bad text message if somebody's wheel falls off or something like that. But you can leave private notes indicating that you've called the customer and they're coming in. That way, if say you're gone, they can come see context again in relation to this interaction with the customer. So we have the Net Promoter Score model, which again gives you this really nice metric as far as customers putting their information in. So score ebbs and flows based off of that input. We have a binary model. So this is a little bit more streamlined. So it's reply 1 for satisfied, 2 for unsatisfied. This again gives you the same kind of automations, funneling those online customers or the positive customers online, negative customers back into your ecosystem. You choose when the messages go out, minimum sale amount. So if you only want to send it above a certain dollar amount, and then whether you want it on all sales or specifically for your service department. It's one of those situations where our consumer base is changing, right? Like we're moving from an era of people being very vocal and screaming and yelling, and instead they walk a lot softer and they walk a lot quieter, but they carry a big stick. And the big stick is the internet. So we didn't want to just funnel everybody on there. We want to get a equal representation based off of the context. Okay, last but not least, Ikiono campaigns. So Ikiono campaigns in many ways is an ode to our original concept. The whole thing about Ikiono was designed to connect bike shops back with customers and doing it in an efficient way. And, our original thing almost 5 years ago was based off of an iOS app that connected to Strava and Garmin, let customers create bike profiles, made recommendations on service, and then let them schedule with local bike shops. And it was really cool. We were really proud of it. We got a lot of users really quickly, but we realized that there were a few fatal flaws when we brought it to bike shops and started interacting with them. First and foremost, trust. The bike industry is very opinionated. So we ran into a situation where our platform was making service recommendations and they would go to a shop with those recommendations and it wasn't being honored, which is totally fine. The other thing was, 75% of customers, they don't care how something works. They just want it to work. So we were providing too much information to the consumer. And then finally, we were an independent brand. Why were they to trust us on what we were saying? So we've reimagined that concept in a way that solves those 3 fatal flaws. So with Ikiono campaigns, you can build fully automated text messages based off of your Lightspeed inventory. This can be as specific as a single Lightspeed SKU. So when you sell a SKU, it'll trigger this messaging. It can be generic as brands, categories, subcategories. And this allows you to create these automated drip campaigns based off of purchases in Lightspeed. So popular things we're seeing are new bike text messages. Hey, it's been 30 days since you bought your bike. They'll set it up under a category for their new bikes. It's been 30 days, bring it on in so we can check on everything. Service recommendations, especially in the mountain bike space. Suspension service is it's one of the best defined service intervals in the industry at the moment. And as such, it makes it really easy to make recommendations. Hey, it's been 6 months since you've had your suspension serviced. You should probably bring it back in. And then finally, annual tune-ups. Hey, it's been a year since you've had a tune-up on your bike. Bring it on in so we can go ahead and get it ready for the next season. The system allows you to set up any messages you want, so you can put in your verbiage. You decide when the message goes out. And instead of it queuing and you have to wait a year for ROI, this looks retroactively and it's just constantly running in Lightspeed. As customers meet the criteria you've set, it'll queue and send the message. We then listen in Lightspeed for conversion, so we can track whether or not these are converting well for your business. So that way you can kind of play with them to figure out what works best for you. And this is kind of an early release product. It's fully functional, but we have a lot of cool things we're working on it with. So fully customizable surveys. This will allow you to build out custom surveys that can ask any questions you want. So if you think of it as a way to get really specific feedback on, say you're working with a new brand and you have questions about those brands for your customers, you can build out these surveys, and we're seeing really good input from that. The other thing it enables is the ability to make after purchase recommendations. Buying a bike nowadays is akin to buying a Honda Civic. And so that is a shock to a lot of people. As such, sending a recommendation a week later after they've had time to kind of step away from that big purchase and be like, these are the top 5 things we recommend for new bikes and shoes, helmet, things like that. So there's a lot of really cool functionality that's coming from this. All of it's done via text initially, but we're working on integrations with MailChimp and Constant Contact, where you'll use Ikiono to kind of build out your audiences and then push through to those marketing platforms to make it easier to build audiences in a way that's based off of Lightspeed data. Because a lot of times what you are wanting to tell customers, customers excited about the new mountain bike, chances are they bought the old one, versus you don't want to just blast saying like, hey, there's a new mountain bike, and sending it to a triathlete who has had no interaction with the mountain bike space. Alrighty. And, a lot of our functionality is predicated on Lightspeed because in many ways they embraced us the most. We built Ikiono on our Lightspeed instance at the bike shop before really reaching out and building a relationship with them. We are working, we have a standalone platform as well that allows you to manage your conversations and your contacts directly within Ikiono. We're working on relationships with Ascend and Edge Technologies. They're not as deeply integrated as with Lightspeed, just based off of limitations with the technology, but it allows you to manage your contacts within the Ikiono ecosystem and keeps everything in sync between them. So as more and more kind of people come on with those ecosystems, we can build more and more with them. And then finally, we have some cool functionality in the works. We've recently launched the ability to integrate Facebook Messenger. So if you get a lot of messages from that ecosystem, you can integrate them and manage them directly within Ikiono. We are going to be introducing a unified inbox in the next few weeks. So this will bring in Facebook Messenger, Instagram Messenger, Google My Business, and email. The tech industry loves to open new channels of communication without really appreciating that somebody has to manage it. And so we're trying to bring as many kind of points of contact with your customers into one ecosystem to make it easier to interact with your customers and provide great customer service in a way that isn't really time consuming. Okay, that's Ikiono. I think now is probably a good time to open it up to questions.
Great, we already have a couple coming in, so we can just jump right in. First one is, I use lead cycles to have customers sign a release for test rides. There's automatic follow-up, and if they buy, there's additional follow-up. Do you have anything like this for test rides?
We don't have the release. It is something that we're exploring, the ability to send waivers. And in many ways, Ikiono Payments set all of the groundwork for that because we manage these invoice links. And so We don't have the waivers quite yet. It is on our roadmap. And we do have the follow-ups as far as being able to set up, automated follow-ups on whatever you're wanting. So you could build out an inventory campaign based off of the rental, right? Like if you sell out the rental to be able to track it in Lightspeed, you can set that up to follow up and be like, hey, we're just checking in to see how things are going with the new ride, or if you had any questions or stuff like that.
Perfect. And then we have someone asking a more specific question. They said early in the presentation, you said you had somebody text in. They saw that you could register the lead on your screen, but they can't find it in their own app. Is there?
Yeah, so I guess I should have gotten rid of some of the beta features. So register lead is in many ways kind of what's going on in the industry, right? People are interested in specific bikes that are sold out to 2023, 2024, right? And so remembering which ones of those customers are interested and making it easier to follow up in relation to them. So this register lead flow is in relation to specialized response initially, which is a CRM that a lot of specialized retailers use. And it's also going to make the ability to register leads in relation to inventory SKUs. So you'll be able to register like, hey, this customer reached out about this SKU, which is out of stock, automatically follow up with them once it comes back into stock within Lightspeed. So that's not widely released for everybody yet, but that is a coming feature. So
Great. Next question. We don't at the shop create or track customers in Lightspeed. Did I see correctly that a cell number can be added to a sale that we can save as quote and thereby communicate with the customer, text that quote, and later text a receipt without a linked customer? If so, does that cell number remain linked to the sale and the conversation is something we can access later?
So with Aikiono's receipt flow and the sales quote as well. So we'll do Shimano, whoops, might help if I can spell. Add 50, save. So we don't have a customer associated. We'll save as a quote. Oh, Lightspeed requires you to save as a customer to text a quote or to create the quote. So if you just go to a payment, finish sale, text receipt. So there's no customer associated with this. So you can just type in a one-off phone number to send the quote. And the phone number in our ecosystem is the unique identifier. So say it is a situation where you send a one-off receipt or quote to a customer and they reach out, a month later. If it's via text and it's just the phone number, you're going to get the context of the conversations with that customer. So you will see whatever messages have occurred from the customer's cell phone number and your business phone number. It doesn't automatically create a customer in Lightspeed, mostly because Lightspeed doesn't have any they don't have any safety checks on creating duplicates. So it's a very kind of tricky game, if you will. But once you create the customer in Lightspeed, Brett Lang, put in their phone number, show chat, again, you're going to see all of that context. The phone number is the unique identifier. I've had my 303 phone number now for almost 8 years, and I would rather give out my social than my phone number. Like phone numbers have become so important to all of us, especially like here in Colorado, you can't get 303 anymore. So like it's mine. So all of the context is in relation to that customer's phone number, and it is the unique identifier with that customer.
Perfect. The next question is, do you do personalized onboarding?
Yes. So we have really kind of prided ourselves on building Ikea in a way that just makes sense, right? Pre-COVID, I used to go to shops and be like, "Hi, I'm Brett from Ikea," and they'd be like, "That's cool. Who are you?" And I'm like, "We do your texting." And they're like, "No, we have texting built in." And that's always been really kind of a thing of pride with us, is making it in a way where it just feels native. And when we first kind of rolled everything out, we did require an input, like a onboarding call. And that was so we could learn, we could understand pain points so that we could streamline it. But what we've come to appreciate about the industry is that everybody's different, right? Everybody has different levels of comfort with technology. Everybody has different levels of comfort with just poking around and trying things. So whatever you need, we'll do. If you want to do a one-on-one onboarding where we'll have you share your screen and we'll walk you through setup, then by all means. We have YouTube videos, we have email instructions. So we leave it up to you. We don't force anything. So whatever makes the most sense.
Perfect. Next question is, through the payment link, does the customer have the option to choose a payment plan like buy now, pay later?
Yes. So we integrate with Stripe. So Stripe is kind of PayPal for business payments. And they power the new Lightspeed payments. They power probably, I would guess, 75% of online payments at this point. They're huge. And they've recently rolled out an integration with Klarna and Afterpay. We have updated Ikea to become compliant with that. So if you enable that option on your payment config within Stripe, it becomes an available option on the customer's payment page. So the buy now, pay later is currently, I believe it's for up to $1,000, and it's installments, I believe 4 installments. And so what that allows the customer to do is, it's a really quick, easy buy now, pay later option. You as the retailer get paid out immediately, no different than if you had taken a credit card, and Klarna and Afterpay deal with all of the reoccurring payments. So that's something that you can enable on your Stripe payment config, and it will automatically update on the Ikea side as well.
Great. I think that's all the questions we have coming through today. Maybe not. Maybe we have one more. Yes. Any customer service scheduling?
Oh, customer service, right? Scheduling is, it's, the 600-pound gorilla in the room. When we first started it, we had that kind of aspect of it. And what we appreciated was that there's a million different variables. And if you can't account for all of them, you're better off just not accounting for any of them. And with that, we are reimagining it. In a prior life, I worked for the government, I worked for judicial. And part of what I did was the scheduling for the court system here in Colorado. And we did it via an Outlook calendar, which is not the way to handle, 20,000 cases a year. And so what we've kind of come to appreciate is, if you can't account for, all of the different variables that come from a service department, right? Like, the fact that, bleeding disc brake should take X amount of time, but if you strip a screw, bam, there goes 3 hours, right? So if you can't account for that, the better thing to do is to account for the customer's time. So we are exploring kind of an acuity scheduling approach, where it's not so much about managing your business workflow as much managing the customer's expectation, giving them they will show you, giving them that when they'll get there at a day or time, you as a retailer will be ready and able to help them. And then from there, you can set the expectation based off of, all of the parameters once you actually get to see the bike. So that's what we are, that's how we're handling scheduling in the future.
And then we have a question that asked if you can kind of go over your pricing for everyone.
Yeah, we are very honest about our pricing. It's all on our website. We don't do contracts. We don't believe in them. We feel if Ikea is not good enough to keep you, that we need to improve it. So you'll always be able to change tiers or cancel at any time. We offer a 30-day free trial of our premium tier. So it's basically all of our functionality. There's no credit card required. This says 14, but it's line. And this is so that you can really kind of experience the product before deciding if it's something for your business. The $29.99 tier is very streamlined. It's for just somebody who wants to send and receive SMS and MMS and doing it from your store's phone number and doing it in light speed. It doesn't have a lot of the fluff on there. The standard tier is where you get into that deeper integration into the point of sale. So you get the ability to text sales receipts, work order quotes, special order integration, web chat widget. It's for the retailer who's really wanting to kind of, streamline all the different contact points of the business. And then the premium tier is what we call our automation suite. So this is where you get automated work order messages, you get automated customer feedback, both the binary and the net promoter score. And these two items can be broken out and added to the other two. So if you're only wanting the work order status messages, you can add those to the other tiers as well. So.
Perfect. All right, so would you mind sharing your contact info if anyone has any other specific questions for you?
Yes, you can email me directly at Brett, BRETT, at ikeono.com, IKEONO.com. You can also text us at 720-549-0855. That comes directly to me as well. You can also call that number. We kind of prefer text, but it's kind of our thing. But if you want to set up a call as well, by all means, you can reach out however works best for you.
Perfect. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing with us. We really appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, and it's always a pleasure.